Zinfandel is a Croatian grape, Kraselnik Castellanski, but it is never very successful in Croatia. In California, the climate, however, is ideal. It has a big berry with a thin skin, so they plant it on hillsides, as the better drainage there prevents the grapes from bursting in late season rains. These vines have been here probably 85, 100 years. They're usually producing less than 1 ton per acre, and most bankers would tell the vineyardists to just rip them out. However, putting finances on one side, you certainly do get better wine, so it is for artistic reasons that people keep them. As these vines get to be 40 and 50 years old, you have all of that flavor coming from the extensive root system into a smaller and smaller quantity of grapes. It's a form of artistry to do head-pruned vines like this. After the repeal of Prohibition, commercial production warranted larger vineyards, and so trellising became much more the norm. At the lowest elevation in Lodi, you have deep, porous soils. You find that the vines can, even in 30 or 40 years, get a 10 or 12-inch diameter trunk. During the gold rush, when placer mines washed mammoth amounts of material out of the hills, a lot of this was then deposited in the low foothills at around the 500 to 800 foot elevation. Now, as you move further up the hill to Amador County, you have slightly cooler areas, but still overall you would consider this to be a hot growing area, which means that you're going to get ripe, jammy type flavors. And one of the interesting characteristics here is that you have a very iron-rich soil. And a lot of people would say that this also confers on the wines from Amador a particular goût de terroir, a taste of the earth, and that this slightly metallic finish in the wines helps to rein in the cloying jamminess of these very ripe grapes. As we go further up the hill to El Dorado County, grassy, oak-studded hillsides give way to the pine trees of the higher elevations, and this implies the cooler temperatures that we find above the 2,400-foot mark. You now see not only a change in the soil, because there isn't as much soil, you have steeper hillsides that look in different directions. So they may be looking south, directly into the sun. They could be looking north and be in the shade part of the day. The wines now have more of a strawberry-like fruitiness. We have more acid, and the wines are more elegant, but perhaps not as distinctly Zinfandel. Because this is such a everyman's wine, I thought it was very appropriate for us to have some very academically accomplished people to do the tasting with us. So I have invited guest tasters. Liz Tosh teaches in the wine business program. Liz is also a master of wine, so we're really stepping up the scale today. And my friend Hal King, who runs a consulting service doing market research and business strategy. What we're tasting today are 3 Zinfandels. We have one from 500 feet of elevation in Lodi, one from 1,500 feet of elevation in Amador, and one from 2,500 feet of elevation in El Dorado County.
This is classic Lodi. It's nice, big, ripe fruit. It's plush tannins, jammy characteristics.
Lodi wines seem to be very affordable.
And this feels like what I would call a flatland wine because it's got strong legs, good color, and it's loaded with flavor.
The knock on Lodi was it's just a little simple. Swallow it and it's gone.
Yeah, but this one has some length to it. It's so mouth-filling with those plush tannins that I think it makes it quite enjoyable.
Exactly. I think the trick would be finding out what to eat with it, that it wouldn't defeat immediately.
Yeah.
I have always thought that you want fairly strong flavored things, which is why, of course, we're talking about barbecue today. When you compare that to the Amador wine, there's a definite color difference here. It's not as purple.
And the nose is different. I'm getting a little bit of chocolate.
The tannins are getting a little more chewy on this. They're a little more pronounced structure on the wine.
In my crude parlance, I would say this is more favored by the sun. This is more favored by the dirt that it was grown in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the earth came through on this one.
You drive around up there and all the road cuts have that reddish rust-colored soil.
Yes.
Now, I always thought that it was easier to get the taste when you were actually looking at the soil than the Eldorado at the higher elevation. I think now you're talking about cool climate.
A very similar color with
An amazing nose on this one.
very good.
Just
very
jumps
long
out of the
and strong.
glasses with like ripe raspberries.
These higher mountain wines have snouts rather than noses.
Snouts. I like that. Coming out of the glass, a
Yeah,
snout.
exactly.
This is more elegant, and
Yeah.
oftentimes I find that with mountain fruit, is you do have a little more elegance, you have that higher acidity, and again, your tannins here, your structure of the wine is bigger. I think this is a very good wine for food.
But I think that I would have a more difficult time identifying that as Zinfandel, whereas the first two, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, this has a big Z in it.
Well, this is the match. Barbecue and Zinfandel. The Amador has that complexity to it, I think goes really well with the brisket.
And you can go at 15% and still get some flavor out of it. It's not just all heat on your tongue.
Yeah.
I'm a Californian. I'm not afraid of 50% alcohol.
I can do that.
I'm finding that the Amador and the Eldorado are working better with the barbecue for me. Whereas a Lodi, I just want to sip it for dessert and maybe have it
All
with
by
chocolate.
itself.
Yeah, because it's almost a dessert on its own because it's so ripe and so jammy.
On our blog, we will do a little section on comparing an older vine that has been head pruned to a younger vine, a wine from a younger vine that has been trellised.